Hello everybody, and thanks for checking out this Marvel Avengers Alliance video here on G4G, Games for Gamers. Today's background soundtrack is brought to you by New Retrowave. It's an album called Mega Drive 1980X AD. So today I'm going to go through a proof of concept video, and that is one of my videos here that I'm doing for Union Jack and his new ISO. And I call this team up the Jack of Cages. So it's going to be Null and our boy Union Jack. And this team up is brought to you courtesy of his Bounding E ISO that he has available to win off of his heroic in Chapter 8. And if you are a Union Jack fan, honestly, this is a tremendous ISO to pick up. So, it's this one over here, Bounding ISO 8, gains a damage boost after he counters or follows up. Considering he's a scrapper, that means he has a built-in follow-up on infiltrators. I also have him running his aggressive empowered ISO 8, which says that melee attacks increase attack. These three right here are all melee and slashing. So they will ramp him up, but his level 1, the service revolver, will not. Keep in mind that these are all slashing because that is for use with another team up that I'm going to do with him. So his buddy for this one is going to be Null, which right now is really strong prior to the nerf that he's going to take, where he cannot counter subtle and defensive items and everything like that, but has not gone into effect yet. My Null is running his store ISO, which says a 15% chance to gain an extra turn after an ally's melee attack. By the way, this also means himself. Null can gain extra turns on his own attacks and his pre-counters. Keep that in mind. So he's fully ISO'd up. My Union Jack is not. But he's running knocking, increased chance to crit, grace, and eruption. This is so that he can hit flyers. There is not really that much of a shield breaker built into this team, but you could do it on Union Jack's level 1, which would be really good. My agent is running a little bit of an offbeat set, and I do apologize that it's not the most readily accessible of things for people, but we will come up with more accessible gear in the future videos here on Union Jack. I'm running the power cell and the stalker, the weather control device, and the Beyond Corp driver. This slot right here is basically relegated to any counter weapon that the agent can use. It could be the Mercurial, the Blade of the Guardian, the Nanite shield gun, which you can actually farm, the Vigilante's toolkit, cat claws, anything that enables the agent to help counter is really good. I picked the Beyond Corp driver because of the fact that it has some really high damage, but you could do things like the wave nullifier. You could do the Isosaur Whisperer because that is a counter weapon. You know, there's a ton of stuff. The Elemental Axes is not bad. I think, is this the one that pre-fires, or is it the sword? It's the sword. Okay, so the sword and the Elemental set would do it. The Integrated Intelligence set would do it. The weapon in the beginning of Chapter 8 would do it. This Legion Pulse Rifle, because that is a preemptive counter, would do it. As a matter of fact, I'm actually going to pick that because I want to see that in action over here. So I'm going to go to the simulator and pick one of my favorite simulator fights, and that is Our Lady Sin over here, because of the fact that she has multiple ads. I will also show you this team in effect on RM Zola because of the limited damage that he takes on counters, so you really get a feel for the team. So Null takes a hurl straight off, and he's going to have his case of the squats, And we're going to go ahead and hit the power armor because it's going to protect anyway. Now we're going to set up flanked on the power armor. Flanked is a phenomenal thing to do for Union Jack. So there goes a pre-counter in Fatal Fists. And another pre-counter in Fatal Fists. All of which Union Jack could have jumped in on any one of those. And now he's gained an extra attack on his own pre-counter. So I'm going to hit the power armor because he's flanked. And again, Union Jack could have jumped in on that. And he gains an extra turn. Again, on his own melee attack. Tell me he has a 50% chance and I will call you a fucking liar. But that's where this team is really strong. So, because Null is hurt so bad, I'm going to go ahead and get the Warm Zephyr. And we're going to do the Power Cell MK3, which pays for itself in stamina, by the way, and heals. And we're going to go ahead and hit Sin with this, because Sin is going to have multiple attacks. And you know what? For the hell of it, thanks to the extra turn, I'm going to hit this Hydra Vanguard too. He's going to counter, but that's okay. So again, Null's going to have a case of the squats. And I'm going to avoid those crits over there on Sin for now and just take out the Vanguard. And we're going to look and see that he's not gained any bonuses yet. And I'm going to go ahead and protect against ranged attacks. So there goes his pre-fire. There goes his pre-fire. So now that she attacked, she's going to get countered, 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 and Union Jack, and countered again. Union Jack has a chance to join in on any one of those. That's why he's so strong with Null. So now let's move over to our buddy Aram. So I think I've passed him already. There he is. Yeah, right next door. And the reason why I'm going to pick Arnim Zola over here is because of his reduced damage from counters and follow-ups. So you really get to see this team spend some time and play out. So, alright, Null gets a case of the shits. And we're going to give him crits by attacking, but I'm going to do it anyway. And there goes Gene Therapy for suitable patients. There goes the pre-counter Fatal Fists. Null tanks it. Alright, so I'm going to heal up. And there's that gun sitting there, which hasn't fired yet. We're going to use the Power Cell, which can pay for itself in stamina. And we're going to pop Arnim. We're Surveillance. So now the whole team is Surveillance. And you know what? I will go ahead and use this gun just to get some radiation on him. Alright, we're going to set him up with a... I could set him up with a flanked, but I want to go ahead and get some of his pre-counters going. So, I'm going to pop him with that. Again, we're going to give Null a case of the shits. It's going to restore stamina, which is really nice. Pop him again. So now, if he was flanked, Null would obviously follow up, and then Union Jack. So, alright, there we go. There's Union Jack going crazy. Null takes a stun from that attack, unfortunately. I'm going to get some bleeds on him. And even though the power cell is not up, you'll notice that Null over here still has surveillance. So anybody can still join in on these attacks. You know what, I'll just pop him again for fun. So we still have capital defense. He doesn't do melee, so this time we'll go ahead and apply the flank. And we'll give our team agile. V for Victory being the quick action, that personal ISO that he has is very good. And he also has another ISO that says his level 6 will definitely interrupt defensive actions. Very, very good in PvP. So now because he's flanked, Null's going to attack twice and just do a huge number on it with the Fatal Blow. So we'll do one more battle over here. And we'll pick somebody that's pretty tough. Yeah, we'll go with Black Dwarf. Black Dwarf would be a good showcase for this team over here. Now, obviously, Union Jack is going to piss him off. But that's okay. So, unfortunately, he goes first. And he's now ravaged and bleeding. So, alright, case of the shits. And we're going to pop him with that melee. And we'll go ahead and get this out early. Power Cell. Which, by the way, if you run the ISO that says buffs equal hit points, that Power Cell does count, by the way. And over here, we know he likes to do a lot of melee, so we'll go ahead and send him up with Trench Warfare. So there goes the Fatal Fist pre-counter, Service Revolver, and Royal Arm. So that was his own pre-counter and him joining in on Null's pre-counter. And here is the Surveillance in action. Look at all this extra damage that he's taken. Now, obviously, he's rather immune to it. But if that was any other normal mob, that would be doing a ton of damage. And as you can see in your head, you're probably formulating how this is a good thing for Molly. Imagine her taking hits from all of your people on every one of her tantrum hits. Alright, so Union Jack has his Capital Defense, which says he can counter ranged, and he also has Stiff Upper Lip, which says he can counter melee. He doesn't really do a whole lot of defensive things, but I can do this to remove his buffs. What I'm going to do is set him up with the flanked and give us agile. There's a pre-counter and a pre-counter. Null tanks it. And there's Surveillance in action. Alright. So this time I'll go ahead and hit him with a melee again because he's flanked. Alright, so there was no extra turns over there. And pretty much Black Dwarf is going to die at this point because he doesn't have that whole thing where he removes his debuffs. So there you go. There is the team up of Jack of Cages. It is Null and Union Jack. These guys have a lot of synergy with each other because his melee attacks, which is 3 out of his 4, has him getting a chance at extra turns. His extra turns are often melee except for World Breaker. So he has a chance to gain extra turns off of that. And his pre-counters have a chance to get Union Jack in the mix. So, I hope you really enjoyed this video over here. And again, I do apologize for using the Vindicator set over here, but you can definitely get some of those pieces in the weapon dailies. I will go ahead and discuss some potential alternatives. Obviously, any weapon that counters is really good. Any weapon that creates flanked is really good. The Grimoire of the Legion, of course, is one of the best things that you can do. You can run some very supportive items just to keep Union Jack and Null cleansed so that they do what they're supposed to do. You have counter weapons here like in the Wave Nullifier, the Mercurial, the Blade of the Guardian. Of course, we discussed the Isosaur Whisperer. You could run the Neurotrope to set up your team to have counters, which of course Union Jack will jump in on. You can run the Caltrop launcher. The reason why the Caltrop launcher is good is because your team uses a lot of melee, which causes the bleeding and the hemorrhaging. Plus, if you shut down ranged on the opposite side, and you are facing mixed bag people, like, let's say Molly. Molly can throw a van for range, but then she has 2 abilities of melee. If you take the van away from her and set up Union Jack to counter melee, obviously you're corralling the enemy into doing something that Union Jack wants them to do. So you can run the shields to protect people. You can run the soak. Honestly, the Scroll of Aknazak is a very, very good thing for Union Jack, because then you get to seal in his damage stacks. Similar to, you know, in Quicksilver, when he gets those stacks that are normally only sealed in by the frictionless ISO, Soak will say that Union Jack won't lose his stuff, and because it's one of the best ways of neutralizing Quicksilver is when he builds its attack up, you Blackest Void him or scroll him, and you turn him down into a nice little weakling. Neutralized would be good if you're running Union Jack. Having a item that does neutralized is really good because you don't get the bruisers pissed off. And there's my 750 power supply. I'm so happy I won that on a spinner, because you can't get this drop in the game, and this works out really, really well with a smart weapon spamming set. Things like the Mysterian Manifold would help, because if the enemy team can't crit and you have mirror images, that's really good. Here's that nanite gun that I was talking about. This is a really good Union Jack setup weapon. And of course you can always run the Dragon's Foot, which will ensure that Union Jack has 3 of his 4 abilities hitting for solid damage. By the way, the integrated intelligence set, when calculated response triggers, that is considered a counter, and Union Jack will join in on calculated response firing off. So that is definitely a consideration. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video on Team Up called Jack of Cages, and stay tuned for some more Team Ups of him that I'm going to do. Again, like I said, I'm not going to do Rocket Raccoon because that one's obvious, but I do have some surprises in store for you. Take care.